We have a lot of people in the financial autonomy community that are interested in starting a side hustle as a way to gain choice, to gain financial independence and, have that control that, of course, we're all seeking. And a question that I've been asked a couple of times is around, Paul, have you got a business plan template, something that we can use or that you could recommend for us to sort of work through our side hustle idea and I guess give us the best chance of success? So I did a fair bit of research and, Googling, etc., to try and find a good template that really fitted a side hustle. I guess what we don't need is a big 30-page monstrosity that's really, a whole lot of homework and doesn't actually move you forward or generate any revenue. We need something simple. And look, I found some good templates out there, but I didn't really find the perfect one that I thought was right for side hustles. So we created a simple one-page side hustle template or business plan template specifically for side hustles. And so in today's video, I just wanted to take you through that, show you the key points. We've got links below for you to be able to download it and work through yourself. All right, so let me pop it up on the screen here. All right. So this is the blank one. I've also done like a filled in one, a practice one. So I'll take you through that shortly. All right. But look, we've got 5 steps in this thing. Okay. So it's not war and peace. It's not going to take you forever. You might need to do some calculations and things off to the side, but this is just trying to clarify your thoughts to give you the best chance of success. So the first one is, what problem will your business solve for and for who? Okay. Sounds pretty straightforward, but you might have a business idea and you want to start this or something that you're really passionate about, but unless it solves a problem for people, it's of no value, okay? The other thing is that bit about for who, okay? For your business to be successful, you need to market. You need to get your product or service to your target audience. And so you need to be clear about who that is. You can't do marketing to just everybody. For one, it's not very effective, and for two, it's ridiculously expensive, right? So you need to narrow in on who it is that you're trying to help, what problem it is that you solve, and for who, so that then you've got a basis upon which to build your marketing strategy and to build your whole business, okay? So really get clear on that step one, all right? What problem does your business solve and for who, okay? Step 2. How are people going to learn about your offering? I mean, fortunately, in the digital world, we've got lots of different options there, right? So you could advertise through, Google AdWords or Facebook advertising or LinkedIn. And of course, it doesn't need to be digital as well, right? You might have a physical mailing list, or you might be able to do billboards, or even just, A4 flyers that you stick on traffic lights or something, if that's relevant for your business, right? There's all sorts of ways you can approach it, but somehow or other, people have got to discover your offering. And if your train of thought is just, well, I'll put it up on the web and wait for people to find me, it's not going to work, right? You need a better strategy than that. So again, I guess the whole purpose of the business plan is to get you to just think through, I've got this great business idea and I'm excited and pumped. How am I going to give myself the best chance for success? And I find sometimes the example like step 2 is something that people overlook because they're so in love with their idea that they just assume that everyone else is going to be in love with their idea. And so it's just going to take off and it won't really take any great, marketing effort. And that's definitely not true. I mean, I can't imagine that there's any business situation where that's ever been the case. Somehow or other, you've got to find a target audience. You've got to let the target audience know about it. Okay. And so you need to be clear on that right from day one. Step 3, okay, the dollars. What's it going to cost to deliver your product or service? Now, you're probably going to do this out separate in an Excel spreadsheet somewhere, but the point of this step is to ensure that you've thought that through and you've done it with some degree of thoroughness. So, if you're going to build a website, if that needs a shopping cart, you might need some graphic design around your logo, depending on what products and services you want to do. You might need licensing, you might need insurance, who knows, okay? Everyone's going to be a bit different there depending on the nature of the side hustle. But the point is you need to think through that, and you probably need to think about, well, all right, what's the initial amount of capital I need to invest to just get the doors open and get this thing started? And then perhaps also, how much am I going to need to have available, for at least the first few months to just get things rolling? Because initially you're going to have to put some money into some marketing. And, in most businesses, it's going to take a little while for the revenue to start flowing in and for the business to be able to fund itself. So an initial sort of how much capital do we need, and then how much capital are we going to need on an ongoing basis for a while to keep things running and give yourself that chance for success. That's step 3. Step 4, what does success look like? And I'm asking you to quantify it here, okay? With anything that you want to have success with, you need to understand what the goal is, all right? It's like travel, right? If you just have this vague thing of, I want to go on a holiday, but you don't actually know, well, I want to go to Sydney or Paris or wherever it is that you want to go, then, you'll just sit at home looking at the walls and nothing will happen, okay? There needs to be a clear goal. And that might be a financial goal. I want to have $10,000 in the bank by the end of the year, or I want to build this up so that it's generating $2,000 a month, so I can cut back my day job to 2 days a week, or whatever your particular objective is with your side hustle. But you need to quantify that and put it in a time frame basis as well, right? I want to have this achieved within the next 12 months, because at some point, you've got to make the decision with your side hustle. You've given it a go. You've done everything. And you're going to get to a point where it's, well, do I continue to pursue this? Or do I say, all right, well, that was a good learning experience, but it hasn't quite worked the way I want. I need to move on. There needs to be that decision point at some point, and it's likely to be 6 to 12 months down the track, I'd suggest. And you need to, I guess, have a criteria to assess whether it's been successful. So outline that right from the outset. And then the final step, which again, I've put this together based on looking at lots of other different business plans, and I really like this element. I come across it in one particular business plan, and so I really like building this into ours. What are the 3 critical things that need to occur for your side hustle to go ahead and become successful? Right? So you've got your broad with the other 4 steps. You've got your broad sort of strategy, but what are the 3 things that really, they're just critical points that need to happen? So maybe it's getting those first 2 or 3 sales, right? Or, really figuring out, your marketing strategy, So let's say if it's Google AdWords, right? Often you'll have to, all right, you identify some keywords and, you test and you try and figure out, well, what's working? What are people clicking on? What's it costing per click? Is that a viable amount? If I pay $10 a click, can I make enough profit to actually make that work? There are all sorts of different critical things that you might need, but identify just 3 key ones, and then that really gives you something to focus on early on as you're trying to get your side hustle off the ground. All right, so look, that's my 5-step process. Now, as I say, I've got some next actions there. Once you've got this done, you'd want to start thinking about your pricing so you can build out from steps 3 and 4. So how much are you going to charge to ensure that you're profitable? And I guess I word a warning on that. Don't go too lean on the price. Often people, when they get started, they assume, well, I want to sort of make it as cheap as possible because that'll, people are more likely to buy it if it's cheap. The problem is, once you get started, if your price is cheap, it can be difficult to raise your price. And if you're not making a big profit on it, then your motivation tends to fade pretty quickly. And it also doesn't give you a lot of money to reinvest in marketing, in improving your product, those sort of things. So just a word of caution, just don't go too lean in terms of your price. The other thing is, and look, again, depends on your side hustle, but as the creator, sometimes there's an assumption that, look, cheaper people are going to like it because they get more value for money. But perversely, sometimes consumers, if something's cheap, then they perceive that maybe it's not worth much. It's poor quality, or depending on what it is, maybe it's a low standard of service, for instance. So sometimes a higher price actually sends a signal out to the market that, hey, this is a good quality product, and it makes it even more desirable. So definitely don't go too cheap on the pricing. And of course, you also want to flesh out your marketing plan. Now, here's just an example that I did, and look, it's just my scribbly handwriting, but this isn't homework that you need to submit to anybody, so I'm assuming yours is going to be scribbly handwriting too, okay? Probably not as bad as mine. But, step 1, and this is actually a business idea that's just been floating around in my head a little bit, and so, this is one that I've been thinking a little bit about. So in terms of what problem will the business solve? So this particular business idea, so I own a financial planning practice, and about 2 years ago, we went through a pretty challenging process of obtaining our own license. Generally, financial planners are licensed through a larger company, but increasingly people want more independent advice, and that was something that we thought was increasingly important. And so myself and a business partner was about a 12-month process to get our own license, to get approved by all the government regulators and those sort of things. So that's an experience I've had. That's something that I know how to do. And so I've just been thinking a little bit about how I could share that knowledge with other people that were maybe where I was a couple of years ago. So in terms of what problem would that business solve? Well, it's overcoming the overwhelm for financial planners who want to move to having their own license. And overwhelm, having sat in their shoes, that's definitely the barrier that makes you not do anything. How are we going to let people know about it? Well, the main one would be LinkedIn advertising, because there I can specify, I just want this to go to financial planners, so I can get it to a very targeted audience on LinkedIn. Probably also some Google AdWords as well. The dollars, what it's going to cost. Now, I did this in a separate spreadsheet, of course, but the upfront cost is not a lot, about $1,500. So the intention is to record some videos. We'll use an existing like education training type platform. And the people that buy the product, they just get access to probably 5 or 6 videos that take them through some key steps in how they go about obtaining their own license. So the upfront costs are not a lot. It's a bit of my time, but not a huge investment. And then once we get it launched, then of course we've got to get that marketing. LinkedIn advertising isn't cheap. So, an initial budget, it's just a round number, but it's something that, I'm comfortable spending $1,000 a month for 3 months. So we push it hard for 3 months. $1,000 is a good budget. Either it, hopefully it gets some legs, in which case by that point it should become self-funding, or if at the end of 3 months it's not generating enough revenue, well, all right, we gave it a crack, we move on. Revenue. So my revenue target for this would be to generate $10,000, 12 months out from launch. And in terms of 3 critical things that I think need to happen if this is going to be successful, for one, obviously I've got to create the content, right? The whole business doesn't exist unless I create that content and it's useful to people. Then we've got to get the marketing right, okay? And so certainly those early months are going to be pretty critical in really analysing the numbers on those LinkedIn stats. What are the clicks, what's working, what isn't. The great thing with digital marketing these days is you can get so much statistics and numbers, and you can really sort of work through and experiment. You can often do A/B split testing, those kind of things. So in the early months, we need to put a fair bit of effort into really understanding that and trying to get that marketing working, because as I've got in step 3, I'm giving myself 3 months, $1,000 a month. If we blow through that and we don't get any traction, then it's game over. And then the final one that I thought was really critical is getting some testimonials, right? Getting some credibility and word of mouth out there. The financial planning community, I've been in that community for 20 odd years, so I know quite a few people. I think I can get it in front of a few people and get them to give it a crack. Then I can get some testimonials, and then hopefully that gets a bit of word of mouth and spread, so that all our sales aren't totally reliant on LinkedIn advertising. So they were sort of the 3 things that I identified as key focus points for me to be able to move this forward. All right. Well, look, that's enough. I hope you found that useful. This one-page business side hustle business plan template is available. It's a free download from the Financial Autonomy website. So look in below. There's a link there that'll take you there. Please do grab it. As I say, totally free. Also, if you like the content and if you're interested in, the themes that we look at here at Financial Autonomy, which is about gaining choice, financial freedom, those type of things, then subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can find this again in future. And also associated with this template, I've done a whole post on it and a podcast episode as well. So you'll also find the link to that in the notes below. So check that one out as well. All right. Thanks for giving us a look. I hope you found it useful. Bye for now.